Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I am your host, Jeff Hootselle with AuditMax. As you guys know, this show, we talk to technology leaders from all over the country about current events, about things their companies are doing, and about kind of the next wave of technology. Today, we have a great guest welcoming us from Vienna, Virginia. That is George Pryor. George is with Whitney Bradley Brown, WBB, some of these that know him well. So George, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see we're here in Virginia and you're down in Florida. So nice to see
Yeah,
that
it's
this is
great.
all working. Yeah.
Yeah, so far it's good with all the remote things. We've been able to keep functioning and going, and we've been able to get a lot of good insights from folks. We just talked to somebody from New York a little while ago, and kind of those guys are in the hot spot up there. But luckily some of this technology is able to keep us connected and keep us going. So, hey, so George, from the top, I want to for folks that aren't familiar with WBB and kind of your mission and what you guys do, maybe you can give us a little background about the company and kind of what you focus on.
Absolutely, Jeff. So Whitney, Bradley, and Brown has been around for over 30 years. We are a professional services organization. Our primary customer is the Department of Defense, spread across all of the major branches, and now even including the Space Force. From a business perspective, we provide professional services to those various branches of the U.S. Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Space Force, really along two lines. We have a fair amount of our employees that are embedded directly at the government facility, working as contractors for our government clients. And then we have about half of the workforce that are consultants on strategic projects where they're potentially working on multiple projects, sometimes going to a government facility, sometimes working remotely, again, on very specific projects. Company is just shy of about 1,000 employees, and we have offices up and down the East Coast in Florida and in Georgia, and obviously in the National Capital area.
So George, I'm curious. We've talked a lot. The nature of the work that you guys do and kind of everything that's happening right now. There's really two areas I'm curious about. One would be this shift from everybody working from home. You mentioned most of your staff's remote right now. What's that been like from a collaboration perspective, and maybe you can talk about that, and also from a security perspective. Again, due to the kind of the nature of the work that you do, how have you guys approached that?
That's a great question. We literally went from working in the office on a Friday to telling the entire staff that our offices were closed for those folks that work in our company offices, and then obviously following the mandates of our DoD customers to being 100% remote. I think the first week was definitely a challenge because people had to get their offices set up. They needed to remind themselves to do this and that and the other. But by week two, we were absolutely running on all 8 cylinders or batteries or however you want to put it. And I think the investment that we made in technology as a company by going to the cloud, by emphasizing tools like Microsoft Teams and like Skype and all of those things, paid off. We had the underlying base, if you will, that was there. We had a lot of folks that had to sort of trial by fire come up and learn how to use the technology and maybe spend a little time looking at YouTube videos and everything else. So that, I think, has been incredibly successful. We've done all of our meetings, management team, virtual. I think the challenge for us has been more with the customer because of the nature of the customer that we have. They have very strict security requirements around, for example, what you can do, video, and all these other things. So collaboration has been a challenge, but as I'm sure you can see, the DoD has recognized this and is working very, very rapidly to try to open things up to enable collaboration with their partners, such as WBB. For our staff, I commend them. They've done an absolutely fantastic job in adapting and really, using the tools and technology. On the security side, obviously that is top of mind. We've always been on the forefront of adopting the controls around security and have a very rigorous InfoSec program So shifting to working at home hasn't really been a challenge because all of the things that you would think about, device endpoint protection, data loss prevention, and all those things were already enabled. So if you're using a corporate asset, which is the only thing we allow you to do, we advise people to follow best practices, then, it's just reinforcing on that. So that has not been an issue for us. We definitely have to tell people not to use a specific collaboration technology. I don't want to single it out. It's an excellent tool, and I know they're adjusting and adapting given what was in the press. But no, I think security has continued to be top of mind, but has not been an inhibitor.
Yeah, so as an IT leader within the company, there's not really a great playbook for this, right? This is not, we have playbooks for hurricanes and some natural disasters and things like that. This is a little bit different, and I think, like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of hitting everybody at one time. So as you look and you're leading your organization, where is kind of your mindset at right now as you're looking kind of what the next phase of this is? Whether that's coming back into the office and making that migration, or possibly just being ready for another wave of this to come. Where's kind of your mindset about what's the future look like?
That's a great question. I personally hope that there's not another wave, but it's definitely something that we have discussed and we are preparing and adjusting to however the phased reopening occurs. There's an awful lot that has to be discussed around the nitty-gritty of sanitizing equipment that might get returned. In many ways, this was a trial by fire of our business continuity plan, if you think about it. We lost access to our primary facility. Well, we didn't lose access. We chose not to expose our staff by going in there. So if you think about the departments that are heavily reliant on physical facilities, business operations, and everything, they had to adapt. How do you pay invoices? How do you process, bills and all the different things? So I think one thing it's proven to us is we probably don't need as much office space as we have, and we can function in a much more digital and virtual world. So the question for us as a company is, how do we capitalize on that, and how do we grow and use this as a learning experience so that it doesn't just become an event, but it becomes a catalyst for change.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think the folks that have, like yourself, that have been very cloud first focused and been embracing that digital transformation over the last couple of years, seem to have been the ones that have made the transition a little bit easier through this. I think as we come out of it, like you said, a lot of folks will kind of wake up to that. No different than if you had a security breach or something else that happens. Not everybody invests a lot of budget in security until something happens, unfortunately. I think this will be kind of the same way, where all of a sudden we make this jump in adoption in services like the video conferencing piece that has been around for a long time, but maybe people haven't used it because they haven't been super comfortable with being on camera. A situation like this kind of forces them into that mode. I think, do you kind of see that? What do you see as kind of the lasting legacy of this for your team?
Well, I think the one thing that it will, I don't know if that's the right term, is spell the potential demise, but I think the investment in large-scale fixed VTC or collaboration facilities is likely going to be questioned. The fact that we're conducting this using a PC or a tablet, a Chromebook or whatever, tells me that the pitch to put in a large-scale VTC system is probably not going to be budgetarily sustainable because it's not needed. Number two, I think it's also going to show that people can collaborate on intellectual products in a way where you don't just send an email out or a document, you actually actively collaborate, because you can't go down to someone's office and say, here's this page 2, take a look at this, and I need you to do this. So I think that in the long run, it will help make us more productive and more efficient. I know people grumble because, people are forced to adapt and change, and that's not how they're used to operating. But for the most part, I think we as a people are adaptable, and we will make the transition.
Yeah. Well, I think we've all been pushed out of our comfort zone, but I'm like you. I think I'm confident that we'll come out of it stronger on the other end. George, it's been awesome talking to you. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. You've always got some great insights, and I know you guys are always doing interesting things at WBB. Hey, if folks want to find out more about you, where would you recommend that they go?
I would go to our website. We just relaunched our website late last year, WBBinc.com. It's a really good overview of our company, our capabilities, and past performance. As I say, it's been refreshed, and it's up to date with content. And I'd encourage anyone that wants to learn more about what we do as a company and what our culture and ethos and values are to go there and take a look.
Awesome. George, thank you so much for joining us today. We always appreciate your perspective and the conversation. Hope you stay safe up there in Vienna.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite, and you too as well.
All right. Thanks so much. And thank you guys for joining us on Tech Talk. We'll look forward to seeing you on our next episode.